Hey guys, welcome back to Rolly Reacts. I'm back again this week with another review of the Last of Us show. This is episode 4 this week, and a great episode this week. I mean, compared to as opposed to compared to the 4 episodes that are out right now, this has to be my second favorite. I think number 2 was my first so far, and then this one follows. It stays so true to the game, follows a lot of the same beats, and it's just nice to see them portrayed in live action, and especially by these actors. Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I mean, they're killing it so far, and I'm loving it for sure. This week's episode, it starts off with Ellie. She's in a public bathroom. I guess they stopped off. Well, I know they stopped off, but they stopped off and they're getting supplies or scavenging for supplies. And Ellie is in the bathroom there looking at herself in the mirror, playing with that gun that she's hiding from Joel. And she's just being so childlike. I mean, it's hilarious. She's looking at herself in the mirror, mean mugging, practicing how I guess she would act, or what she would do if she needed to use the gun on an enemy. And it was just funny. It kind of reminded me of this scene from the 50 Cent movie Get Rich or Die Trying. There's this one scene there where he's kind of like, he has like a hoodie on and he just got a gun. He's like a young male, and he's just practicing his serious, or gangster face in front of the mirror. I thought that was pretty funny, the way Bella Ramsey was doing that and acting just like a kid would. I mean, she is a kid actress, but she portrays that super well. But yeah, she was doing that, and then she even goes further and like sniffs the gun. It's like, what was that about? Like, what did you think it was gonna smell like? I mean, it's a metal object. I mean, but again, it's back to that behavior, that childish behavior, and just dumb things that kids do. So I love her. She's staying so true to the character. She's being a goofball, and she continues being a goofball. After this, she goes outside and to catch up with Joel, see what he's doing. And she even asks him, like, what are you doing? She sees him sucking out of this tube, she doesn't know what that is. And he explains to her, I'm siphoning gas. And it's a good callback to the video game too, because I just, I'm playing along with the show, and I'm kind of just like leaving off where the episodes end, so that way I'm playing along with it and see how true to the game it is. But in the game, Bill, which died in last episode, he even tells Joel, like when they leave him, he's like, oh, here's this hose. You'll be surprised how many cars out there have gas still in them. So that was a cool little tidbit. I mean, it didn't happen that way in last week's episode. He didn't specifically hand him the hose and give him that as a pardoning gift, but it is a cool callback to the game. It's one of the items that he probably got from Bill's house and is using now to get the gas. So I like that. Um, but yeah, when after he explains that to Ellie, she's kind of like bored with that conversation. She doesn't really find interest in, you know, knowing how to siphon gas, and she kind of starts walking away like any other kid would. And he tells her, stay put, stay close by, don't go too far. And she plays off of that, and she's like, oh, this is like a perfect scenario for me to use my charm, So she whips out this book of puns and silly, childish jokes. She's trying to throw a few at him, kind of like an open mic night. And, he's just not biting. He's just kind of giving her this face like, are you serious right now? We're in the middle of this, chaotic world and gloom and doom world, and you're over here busting out these corny jokes. Like, you could tell he's just kind of like, what the heck, like, go over there. You're becoming annoying. But she continues, and you could tell a little bit that he's kind of he's loosening up a little bit around her. After that, they head back on the road, and they're driving along the road, and this is another scene, straight out of the video game, another bonding moment, or uh, another moment that shows them kind of having this father-daughter relationship, that was charming in the game. And it's also, the actors are, Bella Ramsey as Ellie and Pedro Pascal as Joel. They're doing a great job of it as well in the show. She finds this magazine, it has like nude guys in it, and she's just like, she's gay. She hasn't come out and said it in the show or revealed that to us yet in the show, but I'm sure she will. But it's just she sees the magazine. I guess it was one of Bill's magazines, because that's Bill's car. And she's looking at it and she's just like, I don't see how women find guys attractive, or like, who would find this attractive? Ew. And she's like opening up the magazine, and Joel is just being like a dad would be. I'm a father, and I've been in situations with my kids where they're looking at something maybe that's not appropriate or whatnot, and you get uncomfortable and you start being like, oh, give me that, or change that channel, or you freeze up a little bit. And he's kind of showing those characteristics here. As to before, he's always been kind of like confident and serious toned. Now he's getting a little uncomfortable, kind of like a dad and a daughter would be, in certain situations. And she feeds off of that. So Ellie, she feeds off of that, and she's like, let me fuck with him a little bit, and say something like, oh, why are these pages stuck together, a masturbating joke or whatever. And he just doesn't know how to answer it. He's kind of like, oh, lost for words. And that was just funny, because that's straight out the video game. And they just sold that, they sold that exactly how the characters acted in the game, and how a real father and daughter interaction, or, a man and a girl would act in that situation. Is kind of like an uncomfortable topic to even talk about. So I like the way that they're staying true to the characters. It's super cool. And after that, it just shows them kind of going on their journey. They've been on the road for a while. Joel, notices Ellie's bored out of her mind. And me, I'm a parent myself, and I've noticed times when my kids are, just tired of running errands with me, or getting a little bit antsy in the car, like, oh my God, can we just get home, or can we go somewhere fun? Can we do something cool? And Joel picks up on that in this episode. He's kind of like, all right, let's call it a day and stop off, set up camp or whatever. So they stop off. They're in like this rural country area, and they set up camp, they eat dinner. Joel, I think Ellie at this point, asks him if they could set up like a fire or something like that. And, he tells her, now, come on, why that would be a bad idea, right? And she kind of, as a child, doesn't think outside the box. She's kind of like, oh, what, because infected would see the flames or something like that. And he's like, no, people would see the flames, and then she kind of still doesn't get it. Like, she's like, well, what's wrong with that if people see flames? She's kind of been behind walls with groups of people, living fine up until now. This is her first time being out. And he has to explain it to her. These people out here, they don't have good intentions. They want to take everything you have. Obviously, they have a whole truck full of supplies, and a running truck with a battery and gas and all that stuff. There's a lot that wouldn't be taken from them, and a lot of foul stuff, or terrible things that those people would probably do. So it's a good lesson for her to see, and learn. It's kind of like, going back to father-daughter relationship, a father schooling his child, as to how, the world is. And sometimes it's not all, rainbows and sunshine, sometimes it's very, gutter, and it's very dark, and that's a hard lesson that she has to learn here. So, after that, they kind of like, head off for bed, or make their way to bed, and it's dark already. And I think Joel was knocked out, but Ellie's still browsing through her joke book, and so she shoots one off at him, and finally, he interacts. She says the joke, or she sets up the joke, and he hits her back with the punchline. He's already heard it. He knows how it ends. He knows how the joke goes, and she's shocked. She's like, what? this guy that has been so, standoffish with me and has this wall up to the clouds, where he's not showing any signs of, wanting any type of relationship with me, finally interacted back, finally gave me some confirmation for my efforts. And I thought that was beautiful because it's, you finally see Joel caring for her, and interacting with her, and stop, he's opening up to her, he's loosening up around her, and I love that. But then, it shifts to her being worried about what he said earlier. He basically, told her there's danger out here. There's people out here that want what we have, and they'll take it and they'll do horrible things to us. And now she's worried about that a little bit. She's like, well, are you sure that we could go to sleep, or is it going to be safe for us tonight? And he's like, yeah, we're going to be fine. But then you could see he thinks about that, right? And he's like, well, the only way we're going to be fine is if I make sure that we're fine. So, she goes to bed and he stays guard. He watches the camp. And that's just another paternal or a father-like thing that Joel does here, and that shows that he cares for her. He's losing sleep. He knows he has to drive tomorrow, but he's losing sleep here to make sure that she's safe. He made a promise to her. He said, we're going to be fine. And that's the only way he could guarantee that, is by staying up and standing guard at this campsite. So I just thought that was beautiful. You finally see some of that tough exterior, breaking, and he's having a heart for Ellie, and it's building onto their relationship. So I love that. The next morning, they wake up and they head back on the road. Joel, I guess, had some coffee from from Bill's house or whatever. That woke Ellie up, and they head out on the road. And I just love how she continues. She's a brilliant actress because she is a kid in real life, but she's like but she's probably more like not your normal kid, right? She's been in acting. She's a little bit more mature than your average kid in everyday life, I would assume. She's had a life where she has to conduct business and do stuff like that. So as a real person, Bella Ramsey, she's she probably is not like your normal typical kid, but her acting like Ellie from the game and like a normal typical kid would is awesome. And for example, it's like, every kid I've ever met is always questioned, what is coffee like to an adult, or that smells funny, what is that, why do you like that? Or they're always curious about coffee. And she's over here, ragging on his coffee, saying it smells like crap, and what is that, and how could he even drink that? And he's kind of being like the old weird dad, like, I love this disgusting stuff or whatever. So just another, banter between father and daughter that I could relate to for sure, and I know most dads and daughters can. And then even further to that, when she's reviewing the map and she asks Joel where Tommy is, and he kind of gives her like a rough idea, or I guess names the town that Tommy should be in, or that he last heard from Tommy in. And she looks at it on the map, and I guess the closest big city is Cheyenne, Wyoming, or Cheyenne. She doesn't know how to say it. She kind of just reads it the way it's spelled. And when he corrects her, as to how to enunciate the name of the city, she's like, really? Like, that's how you say it? Like, that's such a childish thing. Like, that's a thing that a child would do. The child would read it the way it is on paper. And then when you correct them, they're like, what? Like, how does that even make sense? That's happened with my kids several times. So I just love those little small details that they focus on the show, that nobody would really care about or nobody would pay much attention to. But that just shows that the writers, the actors on this show, they're taking everything seriously. And that's why it's getting such rave reviews, because it's just excellent execution, excellent attention to detail. And that's why I'm loving this show. After that, I mean, they're on their journey, they're driving, they're on their way there. And Ellie asks Joel about his brother Tommy. And, she's like, why aren't you guys together? I mean, what happened? Obviously, something had to happen, for you to not to be with him, and you barely even talk about him, whatever. So, he tries to dodge it, but then she brings up a great point. She's like, okay, he's like, it's a long story. That's a typical answer anybody would say. And she's like, okay, is it more than 25 hours? Because that's what we got on this trip. And, at that point, he's like, all right, whatever. I guess I'll tell you. So he kind of opens up to her, and um, it's kind of sad because, like, that's his little brother, Tommy, and he's kind of like talking down on like Tommy's decisions or Tommy's character, and he basically, tells her that he's always kind of been like a follower or like a person that joins groups. He gave her like an example that before all of this happened, Tommy felt like he needed to be like a hero and have purpose in life, and do make a stand for something. And I think a lot of us have felt like that at some point in life. I need to do something with my life. I needed to be purposeful, and I got to do something noble or something like that. So he does. In Tommy's mind, he thought that purpose and that nobility would come from joining the army. And so he did, but without thinking it through. And then what happens? He gets sent off to Desert Storm, which is like one of the, it's a major war that had happened in the 90s. And even after that terrible experience, he kind of comes back and he's doing odd construction jobs and getting arrested, and Joel is always having to bail him out and stuff like that. So he still was unfulfilled, and Joel says as much while he's explaining this to Ellie. He's like, he came back and he was still unfulfilled. So that's probably why he made bad choices. And I always had to bail him out. So, even after the apocalypse, Joel tells her he joined the Fireflies. And I guess that's where, and he convinced Joel to join with him as well. And that's where Joel meets Tess, and they go into that whole backstory. But after a little bit, that still didn't give Tommy fulfillment. So he left that group as well. And now he's on his own. So, Joel obviously stood, with Tess for a little bit, and maybe they broke off into their own group as well, and that's how they know each other. And then they had some sort of like romantic relationship. So that's probably when he split, with Tommy. And also, because you could even tell in this episode when Ellie kind of calls Joel out on it. She's like, well, if you think that, I don't know, if you think so badly about your brother, and that there's possibly not a good outcome based on his track record, why are we going to him, or why even continue on this mission? And it's almost like Joel is telling himself to convince himself of what his purpose is. And even mentioning it earlier, that even before the apocalypse, he was always the one bailing Tommy out. He was always the one looking after him. He's kind of like patting himself on the back, like, I was there and I always looked out. So that's one of the main reasons I want to go and see what he's up to and see how I could bail him out of something else. He just assumes that Tommy probably is in a bad way, and he's going to go rescue the day, but I think he just has to tell himself that to make it feel like he has purpose, because up until this point, Joel hasn't saved anyone. His daughter died, under his watch. Tess died under his watch. So now he feels there's two things that are giving him purpose. One that he's not admitting because he's calling Ellie cargo, but that is one of his, the things that it keeps him going, right? He feels like he's telling himself that he's doing this because he made a promise to Tess, and that's what's giving him motivation to go forward. But in reality, he does have a soft spot for this girl. It's showing, as of right now, and it's what's keeping him going. He needs to reassure himself that this is what he does it for, and I think that, his defense mechanism is that, to point out the people that he's with's flaws, or to make them feel like they're less than him. Calling Ellie cargo, talking about all the faults of his brother. These are things that he needs to say out loud and like talk to about people in this way to make him feel like the superior one, or the one, or the Mr. I saved the day, I'm the dependable one. He needs that like reassurance to keep going. So it's kind of twisted, but it definitely shows, Ellie, because of everything that's happened in his past, is a broken man. And he's just kind of telling himself these things to reassure why he's here. Otherwise he would probably just be like, I have no purpose and whatever, I'm done. So that was just a good insight into Joel's psychological state. And then for Elliot is to really for there to be a backstory about what happened with his brother that really wasn't explained in the game. um in reality, Joel, he needs this for himself, selfishly. He needs to reassure, why he's here, what his purpose is, and continue with this facade to prove how important he is to the important people in his life, or the missions that he's on. um but then he gets a little flustered during that conversation and kind of just like tries to change the subject. He tells Elliot, why don't you go to sleep? But you didn't really sleep that much last night, so you can catch up on sleep. I don't want to talk about this anymore, basically. And she does pass out. She ends up passing out. They wake up and there's a roadblock on the road, to where they need to go. And at that point, Joel's like, damn, man, this is going to set us back if we have to go. So, you know what? I'll just do like a shortcut through the city and we'll be back on that road in no time. But as they go there, they see a guy in the middle of the street. It's in the middle of this city, abandoned city. You see a guy acting like he's injured or asking for help. And Joe knows what's up already. I mean, he even says as much later in the episode. He's like, I've been a part of these type of setups and stuff like that. And he was right, because Ellie kind of looks at him like, hey, are we going to help this guy? What if he really is injured or needs help? And Joe's not buying it. Joe's like, nah. And he was right to trust his instinct. But they overpower him. Their little ambush there. They overpower Joe and Ellie. They go crash into like this little laundromat. And then this is just another scene straight out the game. I mean, you crash into that building there. You got a mob of guys surrounding, shooting at you, and you got to take them out. And it appears that Joel, clears the area. Ellie's hiding, behind this wall. But this other guy comes out of nowhere, sneak attacks Joel, gets the better of Joel, and Ellie's like, what do I do? I mean, you hear Joel choking, and she's just like, panicked, like, oh my God, So she remembers she has the gun, and she goes and she saves the day. She shoots the guy that's attacking Joel, and she doesn't kill him, but she definitely shoots him, injures him. Then that guy starts pleading for his life. He's like, just let me live and nothing will happen to you guys. I'll tell my group that you guys are good and the other stuff and blah blah blah. And you could see Ellie wants to believe that, and she's kind of like, what should we do in this case? Should we believe him? Should we continue? She's a little wet behind the ears. And at that point, Joel just tells her, hey, go back behind that wall, and I'll handle this, whatever. And he does. She goes behind the wall, and you hear, Joel stab this guy to death with his own knife. And that's just another lesson that Ellie had to learn on this journey. She had to learn that, in this world, you can't leave no loose ends. We all know what happens when, that happens. And, Joel just doesn't play that. I mean, Joel's been around the block quite a few times to know this. So, he does what he has to do to save them. It's either them or him and her, and he chooses them. He chooses, we're gonna survive, we're gonna get through this, and we're not gonna leave no loose ends here. This guy's not gonna go back and vouch for us or nothing like that. We tried to kill him, But you know, it was just you know, then we reveal that Ellie had the gun. You know, Joel's like, give me that gun. Kind of shocked, you know. I mean, I'm sure he's thankful, but he's also like, oh my God, this girl had a gun the whole time. You know, what kind of crazy stuff is this? And he, you know, he you could tell he's like shocked, like, man, you know, how long were you hiding that for? I appreciate it, but this is crazy. Like, you're a kid. And then at that point, you know, we switch over to a new set of characters. Well, a new character mainly, Kathleen. It appears that she has a group that's fighting against Fedra and the Fireflies, and I guess like there's like a triangle of battling between these three groups. You know, we meet her. She's speaking to a doctor. She well, not speaking to a doctor. She's interrogating a doctor, and I guess her brother was killed by people from the group Fedra. That's our that you know, they're like a terrorist group in the game where, like, you know, they go around and they just like steal from people and kill people and take things. So I guess some of their people killed her brother based off of information this doctor told them, or told Henry, which is a leader from the Fireflies, which is the group that Joel and Ellie are trying to get to. Henry is a leader in the video game of the Fireflies. So I guess the doctor told Henry some information. Henry tells a person from Fedra this information about her brother, and then Fedra kills Kathleen's brother. So she's mad and she's trying to find Henry, the leader of the Fireflies, to, you know, try and get vengeance. You know, you're the reason that my brother's dead now. And she's trying to get this information from the doctor because the information initiated from this doctor that was their doctor and somebody that they were supposed to be able to trust in their circle. So, you know, we meet her. Kathleen, she's played by Melanie Linsky. She's from movies like Detroit Rock City. She plays Beth in that movie. And she did a bunch of like other movies in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Great actress. You know, but at that point, she gets interrupted from interrogating this guy. He's not speaking. We find out that I guess he's known her since birth. He delivered her. And so I guess they have some type of special relationship. But, you know, now he's considered a traitor. But she gets pulled away from that interaction and she speaks with like her lieutenant. They bring the guys that were just, you know, killed by Joel. And, you know, now she thinks that she doesn't know that it's Joel and, you know, this girl, Ellie, that did it. She's just thinking, you know, oh, it's probably the people from the Fireflies or, you know, Fedra that did this, you know, and we got to go out there and find them. And so at that point, you know, it kind of solidifies to her, you know, look at what's happening to my men because of what this doctor said. This doctor now means nothing to me. And now I can't let him live because if I let him live, my men or, you know, my group of people here, they're going to think I'm weak and we just can't let that fly. So at that point, you just see her go back to the doctor that she was interrogating and she blasts him. You know, she's like, you're done. No ifs, ands, or buts. I can't look weak in this world. And, you know, I got to send a statement now, you know, that anybody that betrays me is out, you know. So she's kind of left with no choice. You could tell in her facial expression that she's like, damn, you know, she wanted to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. She wanted to, you know, not have to do that. But I mean, you know, when push comes to shove, you have to do that. And that's what happened. And then, you know, you know that this lady's like not to play with. I mean, you know, she just smoked this guy and then she just sends her men to do stuff and they don't even question, you know, they're just like, okay. So I'm interested to see if they have any flashbacks to see what she's done to gain this respect from all of them. I mean, she kind of seems like a caring mother, you know, that actress. It doesn't seem like somebody that's a super enforcer or, you know, a tough guy or tough woman. But I guess she is. I mean, because they don't even bat an eye to what her demands. You know, and then at that point we flash back. You know, she orders her men to go search this whole city, try and find these guys, Henry more than anything from the Fireflies. You know, she's like, go find this guy Henry. I want his head, basically. And, don't stop until you find them. So her crew's out there wreaking havoc. And then we jump back to Joel and Ellie. They're hiding out in some, I don't know, some salon or some little business. And they start they're talking, and you could see now this is just a beautiful uh like character, like relationship building that they're building in this scene. You see Joel, they finally has a moment to catch his breath and think about what just occurred, and he feels bad, as a father figure, or I guess that's what he is to Ellie at this point. um he feels bad that she had to do what she had to do there. She shot this grown man, and then had to listen to Joe kill him, and he kind of feels like, you shouldn't have had to do that. You're just a kid. And, at that point, it shows now he's opened up for her. He's opened up to where he's showing his feelings, his emotional side to her, and that he feels bad that, she has to live in this world and do these heinous things, to people when she's just a kid, and she shouldn't have to be doing this. And at that moment, she reveals, this is not the first time I had to do something like this. Um, and he's just like kind of shocked, because you could tell, she's around the same age as his daughter before his daughter died. And he looked at his daughter as so innocent. And even like when Joel in the first episode kills one of the infected, his daughter's kind of shocked and kind of like, I can't believe this, my dad just killed somebody, like, what is this, so in his mind, a child of that age hasn't done stuff like this, or hasn't had to live like this, or shouldn't have to live like this. And he's kind of shocked that Ellie is saying this, like, this is not the first time I had to do something so ugly like this, so barbaric, like what I just did. And so at that point, it kind of sinks into Joel. Hey, you know what? This is not the same world that I used to live in. Unfortunately, kids this age, or anybody, has to do what they have to do to survive. And he finally caves into her, her request of asking for the gun. He gives it to her. He gives her a little tutorial, or lesson on how to use it properly. And it's just another moment that solidifies their bond even closer. It gives them it shows that he cares for Ellie, and she finally sees that that wall's being knocked down. He's showing a vulnerable side. He cares about her feelings, about her well-being and her safety. And that's why he's finally, like, what, you do need a weapon, and you do need to defend yourself, because you never know what type of, in this crazy world that we're in right now, you never know when you're going to need defense. So, she's all giddy about it. She's like, oh man, I have a gun now. And it's almost like a new toy, or like, when you, I don't know, if you go fishing with your kids and you give them their own fishing rod, obviously this is totally different. A gun, a weapon to kill infected and possibly people, totally different dynamic, but kind of the same concept. Then after that, I mean, we jump to the final scene. Joe and Ellie finally find like a place where they could settle for the night, high building, climb a bunch of flights of stairs, and Joel sets a little trap with the glass that he broke for the entryway where they came in through. That way, if anybody comes in, they step on glass, you hear the crunch, all this and this and that. But then we learned that Joel kind of has, a bad right ear. I guess he can't hear too well out of his right ear. So Ellie points that out. And, he goes to sleep on the side, where he could hear on. But, before he goes to bed, Ellie gets one more joke in, the diarrhea joke. And he didn't know it, he couldn't finish it, but then he's just like, he found it so funny, and that's it. Wall is down. Now he's a complete he's in this. He's with her now. And he showed her that, he cares for her, and he just has a fondness for her. So, it was just a great final way for them to end that episode and show how far we've come with these two's relationship. And I loved it. Uh, but then the very final scene, you see, Ellie's Joel flipped over, I guess, in his sleep, and he's laying on the ear that he could hear out of, so he can't hear of anything that's happening here. And she has to shout for him, and I guess these characters, it's two brothers from the game. I know that for sure. But they have them at gunpoint, and they found them, and then that's where the episode ends. It's just a great episode. We know these guys that have them at gunpoint, or at least if they follow the story like the game, we know that these guys will be friendlies. Hopefully they keep it that way. But if not, we'll have to see, how they make it out of this, and what happens. But another great episode, stayed very true to the story. It was a great episode for the relationship of Joel and Ellie. You finally see that, he cares for her now. He's all in. And there's a love there, so I like it. I love how it went, and I just can't wait to see how the rest of the season goes. Oh, I forgot to mention. So another scene that happened before they settled down for the night was Kathleen and her guy. I think his name is Perry. He's like her lieutenant of her crew. He had to show her something, and they go, down into like a basement of some building, and there's like a floor rattling or like moving and stuff like that, some big movement. And she basically tells him, look, don't tell anybody about this right now. We'll tell them when the time is right. What I'm thinking, that is based on, the video games, and the preview for next week's episode, is I guess under that building or in that basement, there's probably a bunch of those bloaters, and it shows for next week's episode those things coming out of the ground. So I'm thinking that that's what it is. You kind of see like some chaos going down in the streets, and then that bloater come out. So I don't know if like her crew finds out that they've been keeping these bloaters a secret from them, and they start burning down, some buildings, and now these bloaters come out and they just start attacking people. I don't know. That's my guess, because something similar happens in the game with Joel. You go down to a basement, you're trying to start like a generator, and then a bloater comes out, or like three of them come out actually, and you got to fight them off and kill them. So I don't know if they're gonna do a playoff of that, but we'll see. Overall, great episode. Again, it's like my second favorite episode of the season so far, and just can't wait to see how the rest of the season unravels. If you guys have any comments, questions, or anything, just put it down below. Tell your friends about this channel. I know I'm probably a little long-winded and just go on and on and on, but I just love talking about this stuff, and I love this video game series. Yeah, I just I want to keep making these videos. So tell your friends to subscribe, comment, like, share this, and we'll be back next week. I think this week we get it early, an episode earlier, so we get it on Friday. So I'll try and have that out by Friday or Saturday. But again, thanks for spending your time here with me for this, review, and talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.